לא יישא גוי גוי חרב, לא ילמדו עוד מלחמה. לא יישא גוי גוי חרב, לא ילמדו עוד מלחמה. Oh, I don't want to fight no more. Oh, we fought and died 1,000 wars. Oh, I won't learn war anymore. Oh, I can open up my door. Everyone beneath the vine and fig tree shall live in peace and not be afraid. Everyone beneath the vine and fig tree shall live in peace and not be afraid. Oh, I don't want to build more walls. Oh, there's room here for us all. Oh, we're not free till we're all free. Oh, I'll free you and you'll free me. לא יישא גוי גוי חרב, לא ילמדו עוד מלחמה. לא יישא גוי גוי חרב, לא ילמדו עוד מלחמה. Everyone beneath the vine and fig tree shall live in peace and not be afraid. Everyone beneath the vine and fig tree shall live in peace and not be afraid. Free to be and to breathe. Free to move where we please. Free to answer your call. Free and planting our tree. Everyone beneath the vine and fig tree shall live in peace and not be afraid. Everyone beneath the vine and fig tree shall live in peace and not be afraid. לא יישא גוי גוי חרב, לא ילמדו עוד מלחמה. לא יישא גוי גוי חרב, לא ילמדו עוד מלחמה. לא יישא גוי גוי חרב, לא ילמדו עוד מלחמה. לא יישא גוי גוי חרב, לא ילמדו עוד מלחמה. I invite everyone to come a little closer if you can, especially in the front, make some more room. We've had a few of these other vigils, and I know it's been nice to be in the round, in the circle, but here we are, facing uphill. It's a metaphor. My name is Aaron Schneer. I'm really grateful to you all for being here. I'm part of the organizing team with the DC supporters of Standing Together, and also one of the leaders of Shalom, an ad hoc group that's formed since October, calling for ceasefire and holding space of empathy for Israelis and Palestinians. We're joined today in co-sponsorship with Teruah, the Rabbinic Call for Human Rights, and many other organizations like the NIF and others. APN and J Street, I understand, have been supportive in getting the word out, and we're grateful to you all for being here. Today marks the 4th month of the war. For 4 months, our hearts have broken each and every day. Today, my heart broke again upon learning that Prime Minister Netanyahu rejected the ceasefire offer, and hearing his proclamations that the war won't end until total victory. But we know there can be no total victory because so many people have already lost totally. Such devastating loss. Those of us here today see a path beyond the tribal divisions, distrust, and dehumanization that have perpetuated this conflict for 100 years. We understand that the fates of Israelis and Palestinians are intertwined, bound together. We gather here to say we refuse to be enemies, and we refuse to accept an endless war. We are here to walk a new path where we embrace each other. We embrace each other's humanity, where we understand that we can bear witness and acknowledge each other's pain without diminishing our own. where we can see the stranger as a part of ourselves that we do not yet know. We honor and cherish the value and sanctity of every life, Israeli and Palestinian. We bear witness to the horrific trauma that Israelis faced on October 7th and the ongoing horror for those still held in captivity by Hamas and their families. We stand with you. We also bear witness to the horrific trauma that the Palestinian people are experiencing to this day in Gaza and in the West Bank. We stand with Palestinian citizens of Israel too, who have been unjustly attacked, imprisoned, and threatened. Close to 30,000 people have died, and so many of them children. We know that we are not free until we are free. We are not free until we are all free. Hamas is holding approximately 100 living hostages from Israel and from numerous other countries. The youngest of them, Kfir Bibas, just marked his first birthday in captivity. We ask that people of conscience all around the world demand that Hamas immediately and safely returns all of the hostages. Hamas is also holding the people of Gaza hostage, using them as human shields while they hide in tunnels below ground. Hamas, you have succeeded in isolating Israel. Now come out of hiding, lay down your arms, and let your people live. Something tells me they're not going to listen to me. Embassy staff, Ministry of Foreign Affairs representatives of the State of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu does not represent you or the interests of the Israeli people. He is compromised by his own lust for power and hopes for political survival. His coalition partners openly call for the genocide of Palestinians. As people of conscience, we implore you to raise your voices within the Israeli government and end the hijacking of Israel by these extremist forces. We say to Hamas and to Netanyahu, do not stop negotiating until the deal is reached. Hamas and Netanyahu, step down and make way for new leaders who understand the only future is one where both Israelis and Palestinians are free with security in their homeland. Tonight we continue to mourn. We have felt alone, unseen, and afraid. Some of us feared ostracization for standing for the sake of humanity. Others have taken time to arrive here. We welcome you. Holding empathy for both sides and seeing the inherent equal value of every human life, we are in the middle, in a very uncomfortable way for people on both of the sides. Today, it may be difficult for loved ones on both sides to understand us, but we know in our hearts that the only way to be pro-Israeli or to be pro-Palestinian is to be pro-both. So this evening, we gather to reflect, to mourn, and to raise our voices for a shared future of security, freedom, and dignity. I'd like to turn it over to my friend Josh to help us begin.
Thanks for coming out, everybody. I'm a little under the weather, so I apologize for my voice. And we're going to change things up a little bit because I think we're going to do the candle lighting a little bit later. So I just wanted to start out with a little bit of a thought. And I think what is distinct, or what we've tried to create in this space, is a place where we can actually calm ourselves down a little bit because we're all holding a lot at home. If you're anything like me, there's a lot, right? Do you need a little bit louder? I can speak up. I apologize. So what we're trying to distinguish this space with is that we're trying to calm ourselves down a little bit in a way that we can hear each other and we can listen to each other. Can you hear me all right now? Is it okay? We know that we're not going to be able to have any real progress unless we can first kind of start to self-regulate and regulate our own nervous systems and then be able to hear each other. And we're hoping by kind of modeling that in these circles and starting to do that ourselves and starting to know what that feels like, that we can hopefully send these waves kind of rippling outwards. So there's a tendency of our time to collapse the complexity of others so that we can feel comfortable in shaping our opinions of them. If I've seen anything of this time, it's been this splitting that's been happening among so many of our friends. There's a good chance if you're here that you've spent a lot of your life trying to hold the uncomfortable middle, and that has become all the more difficult, I think, since October 7th, and probably even more so before then. With so much of our interaction taking place in these short-form digital spaces, shaped by algorithms that assign our preferences in ever more invasive ways, it can be easier to flatten the entirety of other infinite and evolving individuals. I think a lot of us had to do a lot of evolving as well in the last couple of months to really understand how we felt about these things, with things changing so much and our values being challenged around so many things and our ideas of so many things being challenged. So I want to first thank everybody for being willing to do that work internally and coming here. The mind wants a quick pattern recognition. Are they this or are they that? Today we say that we are neither, or maybe we're both, but the truth is so much more nuanced. This is a space where we can belong much more, where there's a larger sense of belonging. A place where we can find and support each other in that complexity that perhaps it's hard to find in our own worlds, in our own little communities, and when we find each other, there's a little more space for that complexity. A circle that can expand and make room for beloved community, as Dr. King would say. One that understands that something must change, that we cannot continue to repeat the cycles of trauma, that we may not know the answers, which is often how people say, aha. You know, they say, well, what's your plan with peace? And we can ask them back, well, what's your plan with this? What's the plan here? So we may not know the answers, but we know that the pain we see unfolding now is not the path. We know that in order to change the world, we must first begin in small circles to imagine a new possibility. And this is a circle of possibility. And we must learn how to self-regulate the fear, the trauma, the adrenaline, and the otherness that we can easily be swept into. We must resist the temptation to be pulled away from each other, pushed further out to sea from our collective humanity. We must not be convinced that one is more human than another. We must engage in radical humanization. Here in this circle, we draw around this is a sacred space. And so I want everyone to actually just take a moment, and this is the beginning of it, and to find somebody you don't know. I don't mean the person next to you, but I want to make this a little bit harder than it is, and find somebody you don't know and say hello. Take a moment now. There's no rush. Speech is almost over. Maybe you offer them a hug.
Okay, that's.
You could even do another one.
I'm married.
Vigils.
How about you?
Yeah.
So you just moved from a group of people to a community in that moment.
I thought they did a great job.
And we will continue to do that throughout the night.
I'm in Arlington.
So each part of you holds an imagination of what could be, right? We just developed some degree of kind of bond, a web that's moving through us. You can even wave to those guys and say hi. Get a chance to introduce ourselves to them and those guys over there, and we say thank you for taking care of us. And so here we are. We're going to take care of each other tonight. We're going to do the candle lighting a little bit later. That's the opening. I think we're on to the next. I've taken my minutes. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Josh.
Yeah.
I'd love to now invite up Tali Herskowitz, who is the Washington, D.C. director of the New Israel Fund, to share a few words.
Yeah, you knew what you need to do when I come forward. You don't. Yeah, you've met me before. Thank you, Aaron, for organizing this.
Close to it because it's not that loud.
Okay. Can you hear me? Thank you for organizing this. Thank you for everyone that took part in it. We were really proud at the New Israel Fund to just spread the word. So as Aaron said, my name is Tali Herskowitz. I run the DC office of the New Israel Fund. On and since October 7th, I've been grieving and aching over the pain, loss, and traumas of Israelis. I pray every day for the safe return of the hostages. My heart breaks over and over again as I witness the overwhelming death, hunger, and destruction in Gaza, done in the name of safety for my people. Like all of you here, I refuse to surrender to the polarization of us against them, of you're with us or against us. Like all of you, I continue to hold on to the belief that life is precious and that all peoples, Palestinian and Jewish, deserve to live a life of physical and emotional safety, of opportunity free of violence and bigotry. I know in my heart that violence and war will not bring my people safety and security, and that one's freedom and self-determination cannot come at the expense of another's. As a teenager growing up in Israel in the 90s, I took the bus most Saturdays from Beersheba to Tel Aviv to protest for peace and show support for efforts made by the then Rabin government. I've never given up on the hope for peace, even though some days, especially recently, it felt more impossible and less likely than ever. I often ask myself, how can we pull out of despair, out of our personal trauma and pain, and fight for a better future? I've personally been drawing inspiration from those who, despite their unthinkable loss, continue and even step up their activism for peace. One of those incredible humans is Yonatan Zeigen. Yonatan's mother, Vivian Silver, was murdered on October 7th at her home in Be'eri. Vivian was a leading figure in the peace movement in Israel-Palestine and admired and loved by many Israelis and Palestinians working for a better future. I'd like to read to you some of Yonatan's words following his mother's death. Since her death, many have said to me, "Isn't it ironic, against all logic, that a peace activist like her was slaughtered in a war?" No. Once war breaks out, dying is the most logical thing. What is illogical is the very existence of war. What is ironic is that after she is buried and in the ground, the war continues to rage above her. That we keep clinging to war time and time again, hoping for a different outcome. That we continue to invest in it. That we think we can cultivate a piece of paradise here while we look out at an unfolding hell without it erupting upon us. How much we invest in fortifying and inflating our balloon while ignoring the inevitable explosion. We imposed a siege and armed ourselves. We improved warning systems, built shelters, then reinforced rooms, the Iron Dome, and underground walls. So many financial resources spent on maintaining a reality that isn't even supposed to exist. So much mental energy just to avoid seeing, knowing, feeling. But my mother always saw, knew and felt. She saw the hell developing in parallel with the paradise, felt the universal pain of loss and fear, and knew that our only chance to achieve a life of safety and prosperity is peace. Now, much to my sorrow, her death is being dedicated to these same goals. But I pose this challenge to myself and to you, so that she may at last rest in peace. Those are Yonatan's words. I'm proud to stand here with all of you and call on the Israeli government, my government, to do everything in its power to end the cycle of violence and to ensure the safe return of the hostages held by Hamas. I stand here to condemn all those who instigate violence and assert that only diplomacy, only peace can bring safety, a life of opportunity and prosperity to Israelis and Palestinians. And like Aaron said, no one will be free until everyone is free. Thank you.
I would love to invite now, thank you so much, Tali. I'd love to invite now a true treasure here in Washington, D.C., the wonderful poet I'm sorry, the wonderful storyteller, Noah Baum, who's going to read some poetry for us. Noah Baum.
I wish I was a poet. Thank you so much for being here. When things are very painful, as they have been, I find comfort only in the words of poets. Here is one called Jerusalem by the Palestinian American poet Naomi Shihab. I am not interested in who suffered the most. I'm interested in people getting over it. Once when my father was a boy, a stone hit him on the head. Hair would never grow there. Our fingers found the tender spot and its riddle. The boy who has fallen stands up. A bucket of pears in his mother's doorway welcomes him home. The pears are not crying. Later, his friend who threw the stone says he was aiming at a bird, and my father starts growing wings. Each carries a tender spot, something our lives forgot to give us. A man builds a house and says, I am native now. A woman speaks to a tree in place of her son, and olives come. A child's poem says, I don't like wars. They end up with monuments. He's painting a bird with wings wide enough to cover 2 roofs at once. Why are we so monumentally slow? Soldiers stock a pharmacy, big guns, little pills. If you tilt your head just slightly, it's ridiculous. There is a place in my brain where hate won't grow. I touch its riddle, wind and seeds. Something pokes us as we sleep. It's late, but everything comes next. Everything comes next. Naomi Shihab. This is a poem by another dear friend of mine, Edna Gorney, who's a wonderful poet, an Israeli. She wrote it in English as an answer to another poem of Naomi Shihab. It is called To a Palestinian Sister Poet. I wanted to write this poem about me, not just fig trees, also almond and olive and grapevine trellises on ruined synagogues and jasmine hedges shading crumbling mosques and date and pomegranate and words I no longer understand. I have been trying to find the way back for thousands of years, but the roads choked with people like your father and mine are blocked or lead us in circles. And the land drinks all this pain, and the almond tree blossoms, and the sweet figs ripen and fall to the ground. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Noah. Next, I'm so grateful to invite Rabbi Jenna Shah from Teruah to offer some words.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here, and thank you, Aaron, and to all of you, just such beautiful words, and what a gift to be here together in this space. As Aaron said, my name is Rabbi Jenna Shah from Teruah, and it's an honor to be here because we and I, as a rabbi, know that I stand in a legacy and in a tradition of those who are able to hold multiple and hard truths. I stand in the legacy of our prophet Abraham Joshua Heschel, who watched the Vietnam War and when it wasn't popular, stood up and said, "This war must end." Our own integrity as human beings is decaying in the agony and merciless killing done in our name. He held the hard truth, he spoke the hard truth, because in times of crisis, in times of war, those of us with a moral conscience can't stand idly by. We have to see war not as a solution, but as a symptom of a larger problem. We must call out and say it is enough. As we have watched 4 months of brutal killings in response to Hamas's brutal attack, as we've seen destruction, despair, and trauma continue, as we hear reports of large numbers of dead hostages and almost 30,000 dead Palestinians, the rubble and destruction in Gaza, as Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu refuses once again a ceasefire deal, we know that there is no military answer to this war. It must end. The rampant hunger and disease can't continue. This is not sustainable. This war is not only devastating for the Palestinians in Gaza, the Israelis living through yet another war, but it's becoming catastrophic for the soul of Am Yisrael, the Jewish people. We refuse to have our hearts hardened to the suffering of Gaza's children and all other civilians caught in the crossfire. We risk losing our own humanity. This week, Jews around the world read Parashat Mishpatim, the weekly Torah portion, where Moses ascends Mount Sinai, and where the Jewish people take responsibility for the laws of the Torah. In response, they say, Na'aseh v'nishma, we will do and we will hear. People in the Israeli embassy, Jewish people, U.S. government, we call on our government to not turn away. You must hear too, and you must do. The Talmud tells of a story of when a leader comes to a person and asks, you must kill yourself, or you must kill a fellow in order to save yourself. And the Talmud asks, what do you do in such a circumstance? The Talmud teaches, do not kill your fellow. Who is to say that your blood is more red than your fellow? There's been so much bloodshed. And in this moment, we're seeing that no person's blood is redder than another. No matter how much blood, it's just so much redness. So we call on our government to fight, to release the hostages, and to end this war now. Because the future of Israelis, the future of Palestinians, and the future of the Jewish people depends on it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Jenna. I'd love to invite my dad, Rabbi David Schneier, to join me. If you have song sheets, we'll sing at the top of the page, Esa Einai. I lift my eyes to the mountains. Where will my help come from?
Esa Einai el Hearim Me'ayin Yavo Ezri Esa Einai el Hearim Me'ayin Yavo Ezri Me'im Adonai Shamayim v'aretz Ezri Me'im Adonai Oseh Shamayim v'aretz. I lift up mine eyes unto the mountains, From where my help comes. I lift up mine eyes unto the mountains. From where my help comes. My help comes from the source of all, the creator of heaven and earth. My help comes from the source of all, the creator of heaven and earth.
Thank you. At this moment, as has sadly become our tradition in the last few months at these vigils, we're going to share a couple stories of one Israeli and one Palestinian who sadly have lost their lives. There's no way we can do justice by trying somehow to honor everyone. So we lift up these two stories in keeping in mind in our hearts the now nearly 30,000 people, both Palestinians and Israelis, who've lost their lives and who continue to be impacted beyond that number. And also to remember that these people are not numbers. So, to start off, I would love to invite Vered, who's been very active as a member of Unacceptable and as a member of the organizing team that's been holding vigils every Sunday at the Red Cross, expressing at 1:30 on Sundays, holding space for empathy, really, and advocating for the hostages who've been held far too long. So Vered, thank you for being here.
What am I reading?
Oh, someone took it.
Someone took it.
Someone took the reading. I have it here. You can say if you want to say something first or after.
Sure. I can say I didn't plan anything to say. Really, thank you very much. This side? Okay. Let me just start by saying we've been holding the rallies to release the hostages every Sunday. This is going to be the 18th week that we've been doing it. We never thought it will take so long. And we found ourselves, as time passes, that we need to call especially our own government to sign the deal to release the hostages. The military operation does not bring us any closer to releasing them. It's quite the opposite, and it's heartbreaking to hear our own government speaking the opposite. The value of Pidyon Shvuim, of releasing the captures, were always, it's a very strong, important Jewish mitzvah, but it was always the ethos of Israel, and we cannot give it up. These people are, maybe speaking to my own government and embassy, don't make these posters into a kitschy art installation. These are actually people. We want them home and safe and now. So now let me read Bilha Epstein's story. Sorry, yes. Bilha Epstein, 81, was considered among the Kibbutz Kfar Aza elders, having lived there for more than 50 years, holding many positions in the community over the decades. According to her daughter-in-law, her advanced years did not detract from her curiosity about the world. An artist and creator who knew how to find beauty in everything and good in all people. A loving and caring grandmother who knew that every grandchild liked what every grandchild liked, and in her freezer was ice cream according to everyone's preference. Bilha's oldest granddaughter is slated to give birth next year, and she was very excited to meet her first great-grandchild. A photography school in Tel Aviv said that Epstein was part of their online community and taken part in their courses over the course of a decade. Bilhah looked again and again at her world with love, curiosity, and found within it beauty and compassion every time. Bilhah Epstein, 81, was murdered, along with several of her family members, by Hamas in Kibbutz Kfar Aza on October 7th. Yeh zecha baruch.
Thank you, Vered. I'd love to now invite up Gili Getz, who we're very honored to have with us from New York City. Gili is a true leader in the effort to build peace between Israelis and Palestinians. Among many ways of being involved, he's, it's okay to say, a member of the board of Combatants for Peace, who many of us had the opportunity to hear last night. So, and they're here today speaking with our congressional leaders and advocating. And we're so grateful to you for the work you do, and glad you can be here with us.
Thank you so much, Aaron. I just want to recognize how special this space is, a space that has the room for the pain of both peoples. I'm here to you today with a broken heart that breaks every single day. And I'm here today to say to whoever would listen, we are running out of time. The hostages are running out of time. The people in Gaza are running out of time. This is complete madness, and it has to stop. I'm really honored today to read a poem of Rafat, a Gazan, who ran out of time, like the hostages we learned today that already ran out of time. In a sense that Israel and Palestine are themselves running out of time. A little bit about Rafat. Rafat al-Hariri was born in Sajahiyya, in Gaza City in 1979. Rafat earned a BA in English in 2001 for the Islamic University of Gaza and an MA from the University College of London in 2007. He earned a PhD in English literature at the University of Porto, Malaysia in 2017. He taught literature and creative writing at the Islamic University of Gaza and co-founded the organization We Are Not Numbers, which matched experienced authors with young writers in Gaza and promoted the power of storytelling as a means of Palestinian resistance. He was instrumental in nurturing young Palestinian writers and helped them tell their stories in English so the world could understand them. Rafat was famed for his role in chronicling Gaza's experience and was considered by many as the voice of Gaza. In October, the 44-year-old writer and academic told CNN he and his families had no choice but to remain in the north because they have nowhere to go. He said, quote, "It's an archetypal Palestinian image of discussion, a debate on should we stay in one room, so if we die together, or should we stay in separate rooms so at least someone can live," he said, end quote. Rafat was killed in an Israeli airstrike on December 7th, along with his brother's son, sister, and her 3 children. He is survived by his wife and 6 children. This is one of his final poems, entitled If I Must Die, published on November 1st. If I must die. If I must die, you must live. To tell my story, to sell my things, to buy a piece of cloth and some strings. Make it white with a long tail, so that a child somewhere in Gaza, while looking heaven in the eye, awaiting his dad who left in a blaze, and bid no one farewell, not even to his flesh, not even to himself, sees the kite, my kite you made flying up above, and thinks for a moment an angel is there, bringing back love. If I must die, let it bring hope. Let it be a tale. These powerful words seems like a message to us all to never stop pursuing peace, to never believe there is another way where both people, from the river to the sea, can be safe and free for all to thrive together. Thank you. Thank you for being here. It's an honor to speak. Let me just say that we in New York, inspired by Aaron, started our own vigils. Vigils like this that allow space for the pain of Israelis. They were murdered in October 7th. They are displaced. Pain of Palestinians in Gaza who were civilians who were bombed, buried under the rubble, mass displacement, and for Palestinian friends in the West Bank who are an increasing threat of violence, settler violence, mass expulsion, and terror from Jewish settlers. So I'm so honored to be here with Aaron. Thank you for your inspiration. Thank you for your voice and for your courage. I deeply, deeply appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you all.
Okay, everyone, gotta go back up again. All right, hopefully, can we hear? Everyone should be getting a candle. I'm gonna do this thing because this has been the tradition, although it takes a little more time, is I'm just gonna light one person's candle, and then I would like all of you to kind of cooperate in the lighting of the other candles. So we had done one of these around Hanukkah, and I said, what a good tradition here, right, to light each other's candles. We're going to lose some here. We'll do some relighting. Give it a moment. Are we all out? Do a few candles. Do a few candles. The Shabbat, everyone knows the Shabbat candle.
Hold it upside down.
Moment of silence, meditation, her lead, then you would have others.
Oh, great.
It's like we have critical mass. So I'll just give a little preamble here. In likelihood, if not just tonight, then over the last couple of weeks, that we're constantly having to make space for difficult truths. For me, one of those difficult truths, I was sitting there, this just kind of came up to me in this moment, but there's my Telos bag. My grandfather gave me that Telos, and also my love for Israel, actually, and I wonder if he was here now, how he would hold this time that we're in as well. And that's one of the uncomfortable things that I'm really struggling with in these days, that is so hard. And as we listen to the stories of those whose lives have been lost or taken from them, actually, not just lost, but taken from them through hatred, through violence, it's hard, right? Nobody's really meant to absorb the amount of loss that we're seeing right now. So it's very dysregulating to our nervous systems. It's very distorting to our realities. There's a desire to just kind of at least put up some type of barrier so we don't have to feel the fullness of it at all times. And that's hard because we're not actually meant to kind of experience loss and death as individuals, are so removed from the source. We're not meant to really actually be aware of it in the ways that we're aware of it nowadays. And I tend to fully believe that actually creates a lot of the perpetuation of the suffering. And so what I want to offer us now is just a moment. We do just a quick moment of silence and breathing and some grounding, and to a degree a meditation or a prayer, whatever you would call it in the tradition that you hold close. And so just taking a moment and quieting down. And first a quick body scan, right? So you're finding out things and then tension exists. So maybe that's in your jaw and you're clenching a little bit, or maybe your shoulders are raised, or maybe you're feeling a little cold and you're kind of bracing against the cold. And inviting you to take that breath down a little bit further south in your body, to your belly, to your diaphragm, allowing your shoulders to drop, allowing your jaw to soften, letting your tongue be soft in your mouth, letting even your eyes not overly focus on something. If you need to look at something, you look at the candle, or you can be in a soft gaze. And so inviting you just home into your body, because a lot of times when we hear of this loss and trauma, we can just leave the body. And so we come back down to the body. And then we kind of feel this collective body that's here. That's the next step. We feel all these people that are gathered, the people of good conscience that we're talking about, this beloved community, here in this kind of field of resonance. Because inevitably, in 15 to 20 minutes, you're going to go back out into the rest of your lives in the world. And we want you to be able to hold this feeling a little bit of this field of community, this field of coherence, of this kind of shared understanding, this field of complexity. And so there's a place that knows this, too, along with me. And let it absorb into your body a little bit here. Let it absorb into your mind, maybe out of the place of just thought, but into a place of actually experience. And if you feel like you can tap into that a little bit, then just take a breath. So breathe in deeply into your belly and release. You're going to do that 2 more times. Breathe in all the way to your belly. This time hold it for a few beats until you feel that little heartbeat in the chest. You know how that happens when you hold your breath? And then release. And then do that one last time and see if you can hear somebody else's heartbeat. No, that's probably not going to happen, right? But look around and see the people that are here with you, these candles that you help light. I see Matt all the way in the back, this sweet smile. And feel the goodness of this space, because I know we've been hearing a lot and we have to hold a lot. And I think now we finish with some song. Is that where we are? Maybe there's another thing first. As always, I don't read the program as fully as I should.
Thank you. And this was Josh Kogan, everyone, who's really been instrumental in initiating this space and guiding us. Love to invite Rabbi Jenna back to lead us in the Kaddish.
So we don't have a fire situation. Thank you. Our ancestors knew the pain that we're experiencing now. They knew, and they unfortunately had the experience of stepping into the grief that we're holding as well. Our tradition prepares us to hold complicated, messy, and really, really hard grief. Our ancestors and the rabbis who came before us constructed these words because they knew that grief would be hard, and that these words don't hold and don't take away the grief. They allow us a tool to step in, to ground ourselves and know that we're not alone in whatever pain and grief we're holding. So we say these words for the Israelis, for the Palestinians, for all of those who have lost their lives due to this war that must end now. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah. Ba'amal divra kirte v'amlik malhute. B'chayachon uvyomachon uvhaye de kol beit Yisrael. Bagala uvizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehi shmei Rabba mevarach leolam umeo maya. Yitbarach v'ishtabach v'itba'ar v'itramam v'itnaseh. V'itadar v'itale v'italau shmei dekudasha brihu. Le'ela min kol birata v'shirata. Tush b'hata v'nechamata. Damiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shalama Rabba min shemaya. V'hayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru amen. May all their memories be for a blessing and be for peace.
I invite back up Rabbi David Schneier.
Thank you. Fran, would you join me?
Asked Fran to join me in this selection that we offer on the high holidays towards the end of Yom Kippur. It's called The Mother's Will. It was written in the ghetto newspaper of the Warsaw ghetto. And we'll take turns reading from it. Judaism, my child, is a struggle to bring down, it's called A Mother's Will. Judaism, my child, is a struggle to bring down God upon earth, a struggle for the sanctification of the human heart. This struggle your people wages not with physical force, but with spirit, with sincere, heartfelt prayers, and by constant striving for truth and justice. So do you understand, my child, how we are distinct from others, and wherein lies the secret of our existence on earth?
Knowing this, will your heart still be heavy, my child? Will you still say you cannot stand your fate? But you must, my child, for so were you commanded. It is your calling. This is your mission, your purpose on earth. You must go to work alongside people of other nations, and you will teach them that they must come to a brotherhood and sisterhood of nations, and to a union of all nations with the source of all.
You may ask, how does one speak to them? This is how. Thou shalt not murder. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not covet. Love thy neighbor as thyself. Do these things, and through their merit, my child, you will be victorious. Last week, we read from Yitro they're called the Ten Commandments. It doesn't say Ten Commandments in the Parsha, but the Ten Commandments. And among those 10 commandments are, you shall not murder, you shall not steal. And the people standing at Sinai. Our sages tell us that every generation stands at Sinai. Every generation stands at Sinai once again. And we are once again standing at Sinai. What does that mean today to stand at Sinai again and to receive, this covenantal relationship, with the source of all life? What does that mean to us today? How are we as Jews, living, our values, our teachings today. We're not doing very well. We're not doing very well. We need to know that we have to kind of stand again at Sinai and to receive that which is so precious to us and to our ancestors. That was so precious to our ancestors. We are our ancestors. So, I know our hearts have been torn apart, these past few months. This is the first time in over 3 months, that there's a gathering here at the Embassy of Israel. I mean, we've been to the White House, we've been to the Red Cross, we've been around town, wherever, but this is the first time. Why is this the first time that we're here? Why is it the first time that we're here? So, I have to just do this, and if you'd like to join me, there's a rabbi, his name is Feinblum, I believe, who offered this a couple of years ago on Yom Kippur in Al-Chet. Ashamnu, Bagadu, Gazalnu, Dibanu Dofi. And Rabbi Feinsilber writes, we can't close our eyes to the fact that the Jewish community in North America is divided about Israel, and there is much teshuvah that we must do to repair damage. Often, though not only broken down by generation, there are those who argue with Israel's occupation is the sole or most significant cause of the conflict. On the other hand, there are those who argue that Palestinian leadership and its people are the main barrier to peace. Some lean towards empathy for the Palestinian suffering, while others are most concerned for Israel's safety and security. And there are many who are personally drawn to both sides. Al-Chet, Shechatanu lefanecha, for the sins we have sinned, for dividing ourselves into camps that are hostile and unwilling to listen to one another, for rejecting nuance or even leaving the conversation altogether. Al-Chet shechatanu lefanecha, for the ways we have missed the mark by only prioritizing the Jewish narrative without seeing other claims, ignoring or even rejecting Palestinian suffering, and not living up to our own values of justice and peace. Ashamnu, Bagalnu, Gazalnu, Dibanu Dofi.
I'd like to now invite up David Katiba, who's a leader within the Telos group, which I hope he'll tell us some more about.
Hi everyone. My name is David Katiba, and I am the Director of Communications and Christian Engagement at the Telos Group, which is a DC-based nonprofit, a peacemaking organization that believes there's no future for anyone in the land until there's a future for everyone in the land, and that the only way towards peace is equal measures of dignity, security, and freedom. So we have been doing work here in the States for about 15 years, and we're really grateful to be with you all here today, advocating for an end to this war, for the release of all hostages, for a bilateral ceasefire now. I was asked to offer an interfaith prayer, so I'm going to offer that now. Holy God and source of life, you say in the midst of our suffering, our toil, our bearing of the violence that burdens us ceaselessly, that you see and you know. You have always been near to the suffering. You witness every breath of fear, every sob of despair, every groan of grief. You know the pain, and you call yourself a refuge. Comfort the hurting, relieve the oppressed, liberate those held hostage by Hamas, the occupation, the bombardment, and the diseased imaginations of our world which limit our ability to see the humanity and beauty in our neighbor. God of goodness, plant the seed of a new imagination within us, one in which we see that our enemy is actually our sibling, part of our family, necessary in any future in which we might flourish. One in which we forswear the lie that violence can liberate us from our fear rather than trap us in it, and instead embrace the radical power of nonviolent resistance and love. One in which we believe that healing is a more powerful force than domination, and one in which we know that the only way to true peace is through justice. You are the source of the courage each of us carries, latent and perhaps buried deep within our souls, that can choose this new imagination. Inflame it within us, water and spark its growth, that it burst forth from the ground of our hearts to produce abundant fruit. Send each of us here out to bear that fruit in a world desperate for it, in spite of the costs it may present to each of us. We ask to be used so that others may no longer be abused. In this war, bring the hostages and captives home, unleash justice, and produce flourishing in this land and among these people we love. O God, we pray. Amen.
Thank you so much, David, and to the Telos group for your partnership this evening and for your work in the world. As we prepare to close, I wanted to offer a few calls to action. First, we still have to keep calling our representatives. So many have yet to call for ceasefire. The number 202-224-3121. Ceasefire. Bring home the hostages. Humanitarian aid. We invite everyone who hasn't already RSVP'd tonight to sign up either on one of the clipboards with a written email list, or also scan one of the QR codes that a few of our volunteers are holding. And you can sign up there for the Shalom list, which we'll also share with the Standing Together supporters in DC. We also have Instagram accounts for Shalom DC and standingtogether.dc if you want to find us there, as well as the email address amshalom2023@gmail.com. The phone number again is 202-224-3121. 224-3121, which is for Congress and for the Senate. I guess lastly, I'd like to invite everyone to continue in this space of radical reimagination. Tonight at Addis Israel at 7 p.m., an organization called A Land for All is speaking. It's a really fascinating and detailed plan for how the people of Israel and Palestine can share their homeland. We invite everyone to follow organizations like the Bereaved Families Forum, the Parent Circle, Combatants for Peace, who also are, their film is playing at Busboys and Poets at 450 K Street on Thursday evening. This is quite a week for for peace work in the DC area. Combatants for Peace, I think it's at 6 p.m. at the Busboys on K Street. Also, there you'd hear from 3 of their founders, as well as their executive director. The Alliance for Middle East Peace is a coalition of over 150 peace-building organizations in Israel and Palestine. There's a delegation of us going to Congress in March. If you'd like to know more, come talk to me. The big push there is to increase funding for peace work, for people-to-people activities, so that the billions and billions and billions that go to war can be matched by billions, not just some small number of millions, but an equal amount, or some fraction even. Just get close, because we know that we get what we pay for. And as a final call to action, I'd like to invite my dad back to blast us with our ancient call to action.
I hope they can hear inside.
Tikiya. Shvarim. Trua. Tikiya. Shvarim. Trua.
Careful with the fire. Can you hear that song? May it be so. Love to invite everyone now to turn on the song sheets to Olam Chesed Yibaneh. We will build a world of love. And we'll sing it in Hebrew and English and in Arabic. The Arabic words are written by the youth members, Israeli and Palestinian youth members of the Jerusalem Youth Chorus. Thank you all for being here. Olam chesed yibaneh, yararei rei rei, yararei rei. 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 I will build this world from love, yararei rei rei, yararei rei. Build this world from love, yararei rei rei, yararei rei. And if we build this world from love, yararei rei rei, yararei rei, then God will build this world from love, yararei rei rei. العالم بالمحبة يبنى يا لي يا لي يا عين. العالم بالمحبة يبنى يا لي يا لي يا عين. العالم بالمحبة يبنى يا لي يا لي يا عين. العالم بالمحبة يبنى يا لي يا لي يا عين. عالم خسر يبنى يا ري 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 يا ري ري. عالم خسر يبنى يا ري 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 يا ري ري. عالم خسر يبنى يا ري חסד יבנה יררי רי רי יררי רי. Shalom, salam.